Chapter 20, The Law of Explosive Growth. To add growth, lead followers. To multiply, lead leaders. The Apostle Paul is a great example of this law. A fascinating irony of leadership is that if you want to do something really big that involves a lot of people, you need to narrow your focus to a few people. That may not seem to make sense. It goes against the grain of our natural inclinations, but it's true nonetheless. Great things aren't achieved by the crowd. They're accomplished by the core. If you think huge, you need to act small. 90% of all leaders don't work this way. They gather followers, not leaders. Why? Because focusing on leaders isn't easy. Leaders are hard to find, they're hard to gather, and they're hard to hold. Where followers are waiting around looking for someone to lead them, leaders are out making things happen. Where followers readily fall in line behind a leader, other leaders need compelling reasons before they are willing to follow. You see, leading other leaders is no easy task. But leaders who develop leaders multiply their growth because for every leader they develop, they also receive all of that leader's followers. Add 10 followers to your organization, and you have the power of 10 people. Add 10 leaders to your organization, and you have the power of 10 leaders times all the followers and leaders that they influence. That's the difference between addition and multiplication. It's like growing your organization by teams instead of by individuals. And the better the leaders you develop, the greater the quality and quantity of followers. But if it's so difficult, then why bother? Why go to all the trouble? The answer is because the only way to experience explosive growth in your organization and to sustain that growth over the long haul is to lead leaders. It is the only way to multiply your leadership. In fact, that's the method the Apostle Paul used to multiply his leadership. The Apostle Paul had a lot of things going for him. He was a brilliant apologist, able to reason with the best contemporary philosophers of Athens. He was a bold preacher of the gospel, helping spread the word of God to all of Asia. And he was an incredible instrument of healing. In fact, according to Acts chapter 19, miracles occurred even when people touched an apron that he had worn. But none of these things can compare to his contribution as a leader. Of all the apostles, he was unmatched as a developer of pastors and church leaders, such as Titus, Luke, Apollos, Timothy, Silas, Priscilla, and Aquila. Though his time was limited, his influence seemed limitless. He started with a few potential leaders, and he devoted his life to developing them to reach their potential. And because he did, the church experienced explosive growth during the first century unlike anything the world had ever seen. In fact, his actions changed not only his world, but also ours. The strategy Paul used is as effective today as it was 2,000 years ago. To promote explosive growth, you must do 4 things. 1. Attract and equip people. Everywhere Paul went, he gathered people who would listen, and he taught them. The book of Acts shows how Paul would enter a town and begin teaching large numbers of people for days, months, and sometimes years. For example, at Ephesus, he taught for 3 months in the synagogue and then another 2 years at a school. No matter where he went or what else he was doing, he continually equipped as many people as he could. Number 2, find and mentor emerging leaders. Besides the value of helping others reach their potential, an advantage of equipping so many people is that it provides a pool of individuals from which to find potential leaders. That was certainly true for Paul. He mentored too many leaders to count. Some of them, such as Silas, came to him already possessing influence and leadership skills. Others were homegrown, such as Timothy, the man Paul called a true son in the faith. But no matter what their background was, Paul took them with him as he worked, preached, and led. He taught them what they needed to learn. Then he turned them loose, giving them responsibility and authority. As a leader, if you can follow a similar pattern, you continually attract and equip followers and then find and develop potential leaders, you will multiply your leadership in ways you never dreamed possible. Number 3, create new organizations. As Paul developed leaders, he didn't hoard them. He didn't mentor people with the sole purpose of making his life easier. He raised up leaders to multiply and extend his influence, and he did it with a strategy. In his travels, Paul continually planted churches. The list of cities where he visited is extensive and covers all of Asia Minor and a good part of Europe. And wherever he traveled, he left a church with leaders who would carry on after he was gone. You cannot make a great impact with a maintenance mindset. Instead, you must possess a vision and think as big as Paul did. Number 4. Finally, to promote explosive growth, you must engage in the ongoing development of leaders. Leadership development is a lifelong process. Paul knew that. Once he had developed people to the point that they could lead others on their own, he didn't abandon them. Paul visited the leaders in his churches to follow up with them, encourage them, and give them direction. Acts 15 tells us that Paul's second missionary journey began with the following suggestion: "Let us now go back and visit our brethren in every city where we have preached the word of the Lord and see how they are doing." Paul continued to develop his leaders through the letters that he wrote. In particular, the letters to Timothy and Titus reveal the kind of instruction and encouragement he gave. And those letters, along with others Paul wrote, continue to instruct and develop leaders today, nearly 2,000 years later. If your vision is large, so large that it will require multiplied leadership, then there's only one way that you will be able to achieve it: through explosive growth. Anything less will leave you far short of your dreams. As you reflect on the law of explosive growth and the story of Paul, know this. Number 1, leaders developing leaders equals explosive growth. Number 2, leaders commit themselves to people and activities that provide explosive growth. Number 3, leaders recognize the qualities needed for explosive growth. Number 4, there are major differences between leaders who gather followers and leaders who develop leaders. Which way do you lean? Toward gathering followers or developing leaders? As you prepare to turn off the tape, take the remaining minutes of your time to reflect on the key people who follow you in your organization. Are you surrounded by people of influence who make an impact every time they get the opportunity? Or are the majority continually waiting on you to initiate everything and give them instruction, inspiration, and direction? Your answers will determine whether you are adding or multiplying leaders in your organization. And if you want to learn more about Paul and the law of explosive growth, read his story in the book of Acts or the letters that he wrote in the epistles.